on our what do you call the unit that deals with groups, working with the groups. This is what our syllabus is all about. Now, that's our syllabus. So once again, good evening to all of you. Welcome to the session on organizational behavior, and then we are going with a new topic today called working with the groups. It's a very interesting and a very challenging subject because we will see the reasons why we should study this topic. And as students of hospital management, hospitals are known for having multiple work groups, or instead of using the word groups, I could even say teams. Therefore, you will have a lot of responsibilities tomorrow getting work done through the teams, because the future work is all about getting work done through the teams. And not only that, now because of the post COVID environment, it's going to be more virtual teams. Wherever there is no, what I would say, direct service contact with the customers, people would be most probably working in virtual teams. So we will also try to see some inputs on virtual teams today. But in the meantime, I want you to just pay attention to the contents of our unit on working with the groups. It's basically called group behavior in your syllabus. So I'm retaining that same title in the PowerPoint slide so that consistency will be there. So in this topic, we are going to learn what are the foundations of groups or working with the groups, and then how groups develop so many things like communication, decision making, leadership, conflicts, intergroup behaviors. So we are going to see some of them, and it's definitely a very big topic because group working with the groups is not that easy. So, but anyway, we have earmarked something like two sessions, which means roughly around 3 to 4 hours. We are going to spend 3 to 4 hours, that means today as well as tomorrow. Tomorrow, I don't know. I have to explore whether we are going to have a class tomorrow or not. Weekly once. I hope Sunday is a rest day for anybody. So, but I am willing to have the class depending on your motivation. So, but if you say that we would like to have a break because we want to spend time with our families, I appreciate that. I respect that because everybody has to spend some time with their families. But interestingly, lockdown has given more time for families. That's the irony. But still, I think that some quality time with the family members on a Sunday is always a very good advice. So please retain that. Think about it and let me know. I am open to any idea. I can even work on Sundays if you suggest me, but it's up to you. I leave it to you once again. So with that pre-note, we will straight get into our topic on group behavior. So I'll disconnect that. Let's start with it. So in the meantime, I want you to note down some important points on this concept. That's what we got. These are some of the points. So if you can note down quickly in your notes, we will resume our discussions on this. This is a very important point. What is it we are going to learn? ఇప్పుడు వస్తాను. మైక్రోఫోన్ ఆఫ్ చేసి. థ్యాంక్ యూ. So I hope you have noted down all of these points. So we are going to see the definition of group. How do we define it technically? And then how do we classify the groups? In the hospitals, what kind of groups are you going to see? and then work with them. And more interestingly, why people join groups? That's a very important point actually. We should find out. And not only that, why some people avoid groups. And therefore, we will see various types of groups or teams, and then followed by a model. We will try to see a model because we need some kind of a theoretical framework to approach this subject. Otherwise, we will be just exploring into thin air. So to avoid that, what we will do, we will find out some standard theory for understanding how groups develop, and then what do they develop actually? They develop a lot of things like they develop communication, leadership, they develop a lot of roles. They also develop norms. Norms are called expectations. I will elaborate them anyway. And then they'll also develop cohesiveness. Some groups are very sticking together, some groups are not. And then finally, the ultimate purpose of this topic is how to make groups effective so that our hospitals are profitable. Or fine, in a government setup, we don't talk like that, but in private concerns, we always say profitable because every organization has to be profitable. Peter Drucker, in his book, the the practice of management, back in 1965, he wrote a book titled The Practice of Management, in which he said every organization has only two goals. Number one, profit making. Number two, survival. Whatever the type, today government is struggling for the money. If only they worried about, if only they were highlighting or aware of this goal called profit making, they would have acquired more money by now. But today, whatever the money that they earn, they are spending thanks to this lockdown situation. So they were never ever they spend that much money as they are spending today on common man. All these years they were taking away money from us, but now they are giving back. I think that's what the life uh, teaches us lessons about. So with that, let's move slowly into what you call definition of the group, and then slowly we'll get into the remaining points. So let's start with the definition. Before that, I want you to, this is something like a surprising because no book talks about why as a management student you must study this topic. If you can explore the explanations or expansion of this, I would I would appreciate that. You can also put, if you want, some quick answers on why study groups. We are members of the groups. Does it mean that we should study? Yes, we are from the beginning, from the time we were born, we were part of a group called family is a group. And then as you grow as a younger kid, you are part of a peer group called friendship group in the neighborhood group. And then as you go to the school, you are a part of a classroom. Class is a group. And then as you grow older, you would join some music club. You would like to pursue some hobbies or some interests. You want to join some drama school, or you want to join some music college or music school, or you are also part of a religious group as you attend to your religious what I would say institutions, either on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then you're part of some religious groups, and then as you grow older you're part of some economic groups. So and then subsequently you join some evening clubs like country club, Nizam club, Rotary club. So many clubs are there. And then subsequently you will be forming part of some committees. Committee is a group, council is a group, commission is a group. Government constitutes some commissions, you could be part of those groups. And then you die as a member of a group. So from the time we were born until we die, we will be living through the groups. You cannot escape being part of a group. That's why Aristotle said man is a gregarious animal. Gregarious means social animal. I think he used that word, but I don't agree with him. We are not animals, we are humans. Animals are devoid of consciousness, but we are conscious creatures. We are called higher order creatures. We had seen in the very first class on foundations of OB, I think second class, I suppose. Foundations of OB. We are higher order creatures in this entire universe. That's why we have to respect each other, because we are having individual worth and dignity. So we cannot take people for granted, because we are all created in the image of God. That's what our religious books talk about. That's why you cannot play with the images of the God. We have to be very, very careful about our fellow human beings. Of course, someone who doesn't have this exposure will not know the value of fellow human beings. You all need them anyway. So, for example, if you are part of a group, you are likely to experience so many good, bad, and ugly things in the group. So, how do you classify them? That's going to be our focus today. What are they? How systematically are they? And why some people want to join groups, and why some people avoid? That's the reason number one. And then reason number two, as a hospital management student, you're responsible for so many groups in the workplace tomorrow, even now. You have to give some tasks, you have to give some roles, you have to give some responsibilities to a group of people, and then you give them these are my expectations, and you expect them to fulfill them. And then you also are responsible for providing all the resources to those teams. For example, a group of surgeons inside an OT theater. What is the responsibility of a hospital manager? You're supposed to provide them with all scheduling, you're supposed to provide them with all resources, you're supposed to provide with them with all support. What kind of support? Material support, human support, time support, any other resources, whatnot. So you're responsible for that, because you are meant for formation of the groups. You're also meant for developing the groups. So that's a very tough challenge actually you're going to take, because being part of a group itself is a great challenge, but managing groups is the most toughest challenge of all in this workplace, particularly in the hospitals, because hospitals are predominantly working with groups. Go wherever you want in the hospital, you'll find groups of people in every area. We will see that anyway with a lot of examples. So now these are the two reasons as to why you must study this topic. It's very, very crucial for you. So therefore, let's move on. How do you define a group? So in any definition that you see in a book, you would come across certain standard keywords. Like I have also underlined some of those keywords. A group is any number of people. So any number means it should always start with a minimum of 2. It cannot be 1. So any number refers to starting with minimum of 2. And then the second keyword is these number of people share goals. You can even put somewhere, of course subsequently we will see the definition. These goals are shared, that means they are very common goals. Group of people join a group for some common shared goals or purposes. And third important key is they often communicate. This is a very, very crucial key. If they are not communicating, they shouldn't be called a group. So they communicate with one another over a period of time. So there's a time frame again. That's the key. Which means all groups are not permanent. They are relatively permanent because a period of time. And are few enough. They are few enough in the sense, sir, there are some numbers like what is an ideal number for a group. So what if there are about 100 people? You cannot call it a group. You would call it a crowd. So therefore, few enough in the sense, it's a universally we don't have exact number. What is that few? For example, in the second definition, Katzbach and Smith, they have defined it as a small number. A group or a team we can interchangeably use, but I will show you the basic differences between a group and a team in the next slide. So they are few enough so that they may communicate with all the other members personally. Because if it's a large group, it's very difficult to communicate with everybody. Some are left out, or many are left out in 100 of members. So therefore, in the second definition, you can see it should be a small number. So again, nobody, even both definitions are not specifying what is that number. In the first group, first definition, we say any number, whereas in the second one, we say small number. So what is a small number or any number? So after reading through so many research reports, literature on groups, one common thread that emerges is an ideal group size is 8. So somewhere you can write down that 8 is an ideal group. It's because if you look through the last part of the first definition, individuals may communicate with all the others, person to person. If the number is more than 8, the communication, the degree of communication reduces. By the way, communication is the extent to which transmission of information happens among people. You have to define it like that. To what extent people talk to each other in a group. So, a small team is a small number of people with complementary skills who are committed to a common purpose, performance goals, and common approach for which they are held accountable. Of course, they are accountable to each other, but broadly, a team is accountable for a purpose, for a project, for a goal. That's how they have defined. But if you move through, this is a very interesting definition. Edgar Sheen, 1972. This is my college days definition. I remember my classroom in which there was a debate, there was an argument on this definition, and that's why I can never forget in my life. Our college days were very, very interactive because we were a very small group of students, just like your MHM students. In fact, you were 20, but we were only 8 students because in HRM only 8 students would be given that seat in those days. I'm talking about 80s, mid 80s. So therefore, only 8 students. When a faculty starts a theme, all 8 would be interacting. That's a beautiful experience anyway for me. We were interacting always with faculty members. Every faculty member knew us so closely. We used to go to them because of the relationships that we had. But unfortunately, because of the numbers, we are not able to have that relationship. It is just calculative. The time is over, we fade away. Anyway, Edgar Schein is a psychologist who had given a wonderful definition of how do you define a group. You can even test it. I can test it on you. For example, any number of people, again he says any number of people. So which means let's have a boundary, a minimum of 2 and a maximum of what? Can we have 20, 25, 30? Sometimes a supervisor might be supervising around 30 workers in a manufacturing facility. For example, in a ward, a nurse head could be supervising, nursing supervisor could be supervising around 8 to 10 nurses, nursing assistants. A chief surgeon could be supervising somewhere around 4 to 5 team members before conducting a surgery. And then we will talk about that anyway subsequently because all of them are not the same expert, they have different expertise. So you are much more aware of that anyway. So let's once again get back to this definition. Any number of people who interact with each other. So these are the keys. So I am fond of underlining the keys so that it becomes easy for us to remember and also to discuss and debate over those issues. Any number of people who interact with each other. So interaction is such a crucial key to define some entity or unit as a group. So any number of people who interact with each other. That means there is an interpersonal communication happening between the members. And then the third key we are moving are psychologically aware of each other. So what do you mean by psychologically aware of each other? Anybody? You can also think about it, or you can even put it in the, what I would say, the live chat. What do you mean by psychologically aware of each other? Think about it. If you have an answer, you can put it in the chat box. Don't feel shy. I was also like anybody else once upon a time, shy kind, but I overcame much faster, very early. I'm too talkative now, but it took long time for me. It shouldn't take that much time for you. So what do you mean by psychologically being aware of each other? Would anybody react on that? That's okay. So what we will do, I will elaborate on that. Psychological awareness refers to knowing so intimately each other. Every member in the group would know personally each other, hobbies, tastes, interests, would know about the family members, would know about the secrets of each other, would know in and out about each other. That's what we say psychologically aware of each other. So it's not easy key. Nobody else has defined such key in the definition on groups. And that's why I picked up Edgar Sheen's definition, my college days definition. And then these members perceive themselves to be a group. This is a conclusive key. So if you try this, try to understand what do you mean by perceiving themselves. So you're conscious of it that we are part of a group. We are a group. For example, all 20 of you part of MHM course, do you think you perceive themselves to be a group? How frequently you did that? And not only that, are you psychologically aware of each other? Do you know each other better? I think you have already spent something like 6 to 8 months. I guess so. So in these 6 to 8 months, do you think you are psychologically aware of each other? So I have always doubts on these last two keys. A group of people on an elevator, do you think they fulfill any of these characteristics? Or some of these characteristics? Or all of these characteristics? While you are participating on this YouTube live broadcast, do you think all the members, I think there are about 9 or 10 members as of now. So all these 9 or 10 members, you think they are interacting with each other, psychologically aware of each other, perceive themselves to be a part of a group? I certainly doubt on the last two. Of course, the second one also. So which means the virtual group, I'm just for the sake of calling you, you are the virtual group today. But unfortunately, you're only a number, but you don't interact with each other. You are not psychologically aware of each other online, and then you don't perceive themselves to be a part of a group. So we can challenge these definitions through your reactions. The purpose of this discussion is to provoke you for reactions. Otherwise, you are simply absorbing the material. I want you to react because this is a better way of reacting. Instead of speaking out, this is an easiest way of reacting. So I'll give you a minute of time. Think about it, whether you can react on this, any of these aspects. ఖర్చు పెట్టాను ఇక్కడ సార్ కిటికీలు వేసేస్తే డ్యాంప్ అయిపోతుంది కదా రూము అందుకట్లా fine. So I think some reaction is there. Some of you are reacting. Yeah, you might be knowing about each other. You might be knowing about each other's tastes, what kind of food that you would like, what kind of clothing that you would like. what kind of movies, who's your favorite hero, all that may be possible. But there are so many darker shades in ourselves which are not disclosed so far. And I wonder whether it happens in 2 years, because I've seen hundreds of students over these years. At post graduation level, this is definitely a difficult quality or characteristics to be fulfilled. In high school, I can understand. In graduation, I can understand. But it doesn't happen at post graduation level. So, but anyway, good thing is at one point of time, these qualities are fulfilled as part of a group. So now you can define. You think such groups exist in any workplace? Employees having spent 30 years in a workplace, do you think they would have fulfilled all these characteristics? Even after, before their retirement also, I don't think they would have been psychologically aware of each other. So that's why this is a very, very crucial definition, which means if you want to know what is an ideal group in a workplace, these are the four characteristics that they should fulfill. Otherwise, in my opinion, many groups, almost 95% of the groups, they do not have all the. So I don't say there is anything called ideal group. So some people say ideal group could be the number. That's fine, but ideal group by all these four characteristics is an illusion in my opinion. So with that preview, we will now go back to how do we distinguish a group from a team. Groups stay for a long time. You can be part of a group for 30 years until you retire, or you can be part of a team which is very for which survives, which lives for a very, very short time. And then teams are made out of groups. Remember that. They are part of groups. For example, you are part of, let us say, MHM team, hospital management department, and then there is an emergency. You are called to be part of another uh, purpose. So experts from all departments are called. They form a committee. So you are part of that committee. Once the purpose of that committee is fulfilled, you will go back to your department. So there can be one from cardiology, there can be one from neurology, nephrology, there can be one from what you say diagnostics, there can be one from finance department, one from personnel, other from let us say nursing department. So all of them are part of a committee which is constituted for special purpose, maybe for an annual day celebration of your hospital. And once the celebrations are done, they'll go back to their own respective groups or departments. So in a group, in a department, you can find many groups. So that's how we distinguish between these two. So let's move on now. What are the teams that you find in hospitals? So we could still define health team or a group. So team and group can be interchangeably used. However, we know only for the time frame. Groups are relatively for long time. Teams are for very short time. Now, health teams particularly have competence and skills with respect to their functions, and then they are respecting the functions of the others. That's why it's called a health team. And we can classify teams like this or groups like this: friendship group and task group. That's a basic classification. So what do you find in a first group? They are also called informal groups, and the second one is called the formal group. So the first one is people group, the second one is work group. That's a broad classification, but more than that, what we need is the reasons behind joining groups. Why people join groups, even if it is informal groups or formal groups. So people join because of reasons like security. So people feel so related, so safe if they're part of a group. That's the reason they're always collecting together, they're always sitting together, they're always being together. In most of the cases, you would find them. And they want to relate to each other. That's the more important point, because human beings always relate to each other. In the absence of other fellow human being, you don't find meaning in life. So therefore, you would have seen some movies, particularly Hollywood movies, where space related movies where somebody would have been stranded in a space in a some planet, remote planet, and others would have already faded away or passed away, but one surviving member doesn't know how to live, how to escape, how to come back to earth. So you would see how that gentleman struggles to communicate. He creates temporarily some photo and or an idol, and then he talks to an idol. It's because without communicating we cannot live. Of course, finally they somehow manage to escape and then come back to the earth. So those are all Hollywood movies anyway. But in a group, people would like to explore that security and safety and then relate to each other. Then they feel a lot of satisfaction. They'll derive a lot of while being part of the groups. It gives them a lot of comfort. And not only that, some people join groups because it gives them some recognition, some status, some position. And not only that, you can prove your worth as part of a group. Somebody should see who you are. Somebody should know what are you, what kind of person are you. Only in a group it is possible. And then it also is a reason that your self-esteem is fulfilled there. What is the self-esteem? We have already seen in the personality course. How much of liking or disliking a person has for himself or herself. That's what we call self-esteem. You are an important person in this world. You are an important person in this society. I'm an important person in my family. This lot of people need me. I know if Narendra Modi should be having highest self-esteem because this entire nation is on his shoulders. 1.3 billion people's lives are on his shoulders now. Any decision that he takes, that's it. Masses of deaths occurred in this country. So they have. That's what he is a very important person. So he should be having high self-esteem today. People derive power in a group. They can exercise their influence on the groups. That's what we call power. Really want to achieve your personal goals, groups will help you to do that, and that's the reason we join the groups. Now let's move on with the types of teams. This is a very important topic because you would see you are responsible for these kind of teams. You have to develop these teams. It's a very costly affair. You have to spend a lot of time, money, lot of energies, lot of other resources, and that's why this is an important topic. So therefore, let us see what are they. What do we mean by functional teams? You are going to be part of them and you are also developing them. So two responsibilities you always have in a topic like this. Whenever we deal with groups, we always remember that you are a member of a group and you are given a group to develop and you have to extract work from them for the sake of the hospital. So therefore, let's see what are functional teams. Now, in the first semester, we had seen what is called functional management or functional structure in organizational organizing as a managerial function. So any business is classified into multiple functions. We had seen what is called line function and staff function. At least two groups you can find. Functional team comprises of line groups and staff groups. But what about line and staff groups come together and therefore you have something like a medical a sub team, a small group of people from medical side, small from admin side, some more from education side and research side, some more from supportive services. So if all these members come together for some purpose, you would call that as a functional team. I'll give you another example. In order to run a hospital, you need functional teams. For example, you need someone who's called a finance guy, someone who's called an operations person, somebody who is called a marketing guy, somebody who's called a personnel or HR, somebody who's called medical side gentleman, director of medical services, and of course in a education hospital or teaching hospital you need somebody who's called a dean. So when all these people come together, we would call it a functional team. It's a very tough team. It's a very powerful team. Highly qualified, highly competent people are there in that team, and their ultimate purpose is only to safeguard the interests of the hospital. That's the name of functional team. And you are going to be part of them anyway one day. It's a highly power team. Lot of power equations happen, lot of arguments, heated arguments, ego clashes would happen, conflicts would happen. How do you manage them? Anyway, this is a fundamental course. You would experience them gradually. So let's move on to the next type of team called problem solving team. Now, years ago, I remember a student did a small research project on a company called Praga Tools Company, Praga Tools Limited. Today, that company is not there. It was a public sector company located in Hyderabad, right from uh, I think it is pre-independence company. Before 1940s, it was established. And then I remember 92, 93. I think after 93, this company is closed down. And how many of you would know about this company? I generally didn't talk about this company anywhere much. Now, this company was manufacturing industrial robots in India way back in 40s. Can you imagine? Industrial robots were manufactured in 40s, that too from Hyderabad. And these robots were exported to European countries. Today, this company is closed down because of lack of R&D. They could not advance it. They didn't explore marketing because public sector companies are very poor in those areas. Innovation and marketing, these are the two challenges for them. And they always blamed employees for their failures at the top. So one student did a wonderful project on this in this company. What he did is he wanted to know how the groups or teams are working. Something called quality circles those days. Today, I don't know how many companies are using this term. Quality circles. Quality circle is also called a team. It's a team of individuals working in one particular department, and they are responsible for solving one particular problem in that department. And then what they would do, they would identify one critical problem area and they try to fix that problem on their own without anybody else's support. They only sit together, they will discuss, they will generate an idea, and they'll identify the resources, and they implement that idea, and they'll solve the problem. And once that problem is solved, it results in huge savings for the company. The savings would run into lakhs of rupees. So likewise, entire company would have teams, quality teams, which were called quality circles. So they would compete with each other in order to produce high quality work and saving huge money for the company. So every year during that national festivals called Independence Day and the Republic Day, these best of the teams were awarded. They were given rewards, huge money, and then the team members would share among themselves. This is exactly what we call a problem solving team. So you can also note down some important points. The purpose of this team is to strengthen a specific service area in a hospital. I remember years ago, Dr. Ramesh and we did a research, probably I think 97 or 98, I'm recollecting that time. We did a research in a hospital located in uh, Rajkot, Gujarat. So it was a small consulting project we both did together. And what we found that in that hospital, though it's a very small trust hospital, a team called problem solving team. So what they will do, in order to keep the hospital clean, they came out with a wonderful idea. What is it? Wherever there is a litter around, every employee would have a responsibility for that. He'll just pick it up, segregate the wastes, into wet and dry, you know that. And not only that, even among the wet waste, they would know how to segregate the things which are to be disposed, things which are to be sold off. And then afterwards, all that money which is made from that pursuits are deposited in a employee welfare fund, and employees would take their hand loans from this fund and then repay them with a minimal interest. Such a wonderful concept. So this is exactly called problem solving team. They picked up only one aspect called wastage. So on waste they worked. That's what problem solving. I also remember one company where I had a very small what you call training assignment. So what they would do, they were manufacturing electrical transformers which you would find on the roadsides. That electricity department would lay some transformers on the roadside, much bigger transformers. This company was manufacturing those transformers somewhere in Rudraram, I think. And these transformers would contain huge copper coil with lot of oil inside. Liters of oil they pour into this transformer because oil cools down the copper coil when the power is transmitted. So once the oil burns out, sometimes you would find a fire from transformers, and then they will replace that oil, or if that copper coil is burnt out, they'll replace that. That's the transformer. So the employees were asked to identify what is a problem with those things. So they found that pouring oil was a problem into the transformer before they are sent into the market. Somebody has to climb over a ladder and pour oil through a bucket. In the process, lot of oil would slick around and causing accidents. People slip away and fall. So what happened? A group of employees came out with a solution. This problem has to be solved. So what did they do? They invented a motor which can pump oil into the transformer through pipes. And how do you know whether the oil is reaching the top of the transformer before putting the cap on it? So what they did, they made an insertion to the top of the transformer, and then they fixed a lens glass, see-through glass. So that see-through glass would tell you when exactly we should switch off the pump. So that's what we call problem solving. So you can find so many examples like this even in hospitals. I'm sure we can explore many more. So let's move on slowly to the cross-functional team. So classic example is a surgery. Cross-functional team, that means people from various functional backgrounds will come together. Another classic example is emergency department or trauma care. You would find all diverse experts with diverse backgrounds come together to provide best of the best care to the patients who are under emergency. So how do you define this? These teams provide comprehensive care, and they would also have a comprehensive view of the problem because experts are from diverse backgrounds. That's why it's called cross functional. So in the process they will provide best of the best patient care. Similarly in administration, because you are all belonging to administration, the cross functional team could be all functional heads coming together for some emergency purpose, for an important purpose, and address that purpose. That's what we call cross-functional team. So when they evolve a solution, it will be the best of the best solutions. Now, most important, the self-managed teams. You are responsible for all these teams tomorrow, or you are part of these teams tomorrow. Now, because of this COVID-19 situation, you will see a lot of job cuts in many companies. Even in hospitals, it will happen. You will see that very soon. So therefore, the companies will be downsizing the workforce. That means reducing the workforce. What will happen after downsizing? Some employees are remaining. You can understand that all those who are remaining are highly useful employees. Their skills, their talents are very useful to the company, to the hospital. Now these remaining employees have to take more responsibilities for those employees who were given pink slips, that means sent off. So self-managed teams, they take additional responsibilities of the apps, others who left the jobs, and they will identify the best ways. They will take lot of decisions on their own because these teams will have lot of freedom. So management will give lot of freedom to them, resources to them to decide even very critical decisions. Like even sometimes they can also identify an expert to join them as a member. So they can hire also, they can recruit also. That's what we call self-management teams. We will talk a little later on about them. When I'm talking about the roles members perform in these teams, that is the actual central topic of this subject. We all have various roles to play. I want you to do small exercises. I will show you once we finish up with these types. Of course, we are moving on to the last type of teams, which is called virtual teams. So, and thanks to this lockdown, we are all working virtually. A lot of people are having Zoom meetings. A lot of people are having Microsoft team meetings. Of course, we are having YouTube meetings anyway. Now, these are all called virtual teams. What does it mean? In hospitals are already known for virtual teams. There's nothing new here in hospitals. The classic example is the communication that happens between doctor and a patient from a distance. Didn't it happen earlier? I remember 30 years ago it happened. When I remember Dr. Ramesh was working for another hospital called Apollo Aragonda, that was in Chittur. So he was overseeing that project called telemedicine. That was India's first project, I suppose. So Aragonda being the Apollo Hospital chairman's hometown, birthplace, so he had established a hospital there. So tele team, we can even call it tele team. Virtual teams were also called, those days they were called tele teams. Today you're calling them virtual teams. Of course, today we are also using another word called health virtual teams. So I'm sure new policies will be evolved very soon after this lockdown is relaxed. The HR policies will change. Lot of virtual teams, people work from home because we really don't know how the transportation is going to be, because no longer we will be living like group members as we used to live. Now, how much of distance? 4 feet distance from each other is definitely a challenging decision. Your classrooms have to be redefined. You cannot sit next to each other. You cannot sit back to back each other. So 4 feet distance is definitely a challenging workplace designs for anybody. So companies will encourage people to work from home. That's going to be more virtual teams, including hospitals, except for those surgeries and things like that. Maybe doctors will have consultations with patients online. I'm sure there was a court case. You should listen to this, or you should go to Google and type. There was a court case on a doctor, actually, a doctor who was a sports medicine doctor, and then a lady filed a case against him because he gave a suggestion to her on Twitter. And finally, this doctor won the case after 2 years, I think. 2 years of long battle, very costly case it was. It is called, I am not able to specify the name of the case, but I can say you can type uh, the Tim Knox controversy, TIMNOAKES, Tim Knox controversy. If you type in Google, you would know that there was a lady who was asking this doctor for some advice because her baby was being weaned. So this lady would ask him for an advice on, as I am weaning my baby, what is the best diet plan should I have for this baby? So the doctor gives some advice on what you call Twitter. So, and that Twitter was treated as an evidence for his wrong advice. But finally, this doctor won the case because this doctor had proved lot of evidences. It's a very interesting case. You must always, because the future is going to be more virtual. So this is a classic case. Who knows tomorrow? There may be so many cases against each other, and then even courts are operating virtually today. So we are all at home. In fact, we are all arrested in our own houses today. That's what is the right word, I would say. Everybody wanted holiday, but now everybody is fed up of holiday. Human beings are very peculiar, right? So virtual teams is going to be the order of the day. So get ready, get used to this kind of concepts. So with that note, I think I will not elaborate more because very quickly we'll have a summary of it. Functional teams, they work daily on similar tasks, routine tasks. They are all from single department. Members are from a single department. Get together. So problem solving teams, we have already talked about it. They might be focusing on some particular problems, fix them. They can address quality problems, they can address wastage problems, they can address cost problems. That's how they will distinguish. And then cross functional, we talked about them. They're all from different departments actually. They cut across across departmental and functional lines to achieve their goals. And then self-managed teams, these are all very interesting teams which we talked about. They have a lot of freedom. That's what I said. They have a lot of freedom to decide whatever they want, and their impact is, as I told you, great, tremendous, very crucial for the health of the hospital itself. So yeah, this is an additional information about these self-managed teams. I have some material on them, but anyway, I will show them later on. Let's me quickly move forward. Virtual teams. So that's the future. So we are going to move with this kind of teams more. So I will not elaborate more because we have sufficiently spent time on them. So now this is the central theme of today's discussion. So what I will do for the next half an hour, we will see a part of this model actually. So how do we approach this subject? There should be a systematic way of doing that. So what we will do, you can see that there are three sets of variables. I hope you'll understand the word variables, or we can even say factors. There are three factors or three elements that need to be addressed in working with a group. So any group would go through these three important aspects. The first one is called formation variables, the second one is called development variables, and the third one is effectiveness variables. I would swap the PowerPoint slide to show you a model. If you can note down quickly that model, then I'll come back to this slide. So I'm swapping it, or I think I can even go back and then show that window, disable this and show another one called where is that? I'll be able to see that. Yeah, here it is. I'm trying to see that. Yeah, yeah, this is the one. So you can see that. This is an interesting book which I had studied during my college days. I really liked this book very much. In fact, I had a photocopy of this book called Boot, Cowling and Stanworth. Three authors have written a wonderful book called Behavioral Sciences for Managers. Actually, there's a spelling mistake. Behavioral Sciences for Managers. I wanted to search for this book again because as a student I read this book thoroughly. So now I'm going to share what I have learnt 30 years ago from this book, and it is still so real to us today. And whatever I learnt about groups in this book is something which I didn't find in any other OB book. So I tried on Amazon, it is around $8 9, but I don't think I'll get it even now. And because I photocopied this entire book my college days, and then 50 saved it for a long time, but just 3 years ago this book is completely termite eaten away. So I lost this book. I don't have a copy of this book, but I really loved it. It is so much worthy of understanding the subjects. So nicely they have written it way back in 1977. So I'm going to show you the model of working with groups from their book, and that is the slide. So if you can quickly note down this picture, I think I'll go back to the main slide. So let me give you about, I think 2-3 minutes shouldn't take much time. Just note down those picture in the same order as it is displayed. So on you have, this is called one side, one column. This is the second column, the third column, and this first column and the third column interact. When both of them interact, this second box emerges. So, and then similarly, the second box is so crucial. Development, this called, the entire box is called development box. This, the first two columns, that you start with size and the another one starts with nature of task. These two columns put together is called formation variables. In the previous slide I had shown you. So therefore, so therefore, when the first two columns interact, the interaction results in development of the group. That is the second box I would call. And then developed groups are called effective groups. That's the bottom of the screen. So all the developed groups are called effective groups. So quickly note down this picture and then I'll close this down. Moist, చాలా moderate గా ఉంది. ఇంకా హాఫ్ అన్ అవర్ ఉంది క్లాస్. చేస్తా. ఈ టైం అంతా బయటకు వస్తా. So I hope you have noted down the picture. It becomes easy for us to explain once this picture is drawn inside your notes. So I hope we can move forward now. So what I will do, I will close this picture now. If anybody has objections, you can tell me quickly, otherwise I am closing it down. So once I close down this picture, we'll again get back to our PowerPoint slide. So if you still have anybody has any objections, please let me know. So I hope you have no objections. So with that note, we are moving forward. So what we will do now, we'll try to elaborate on each of these variables, and then today we will see only some of the formation variables, and tomorrow we will see lot of elaboration. And in the meantime, I'll also give you a small exercise online. So I would show you the website, then you have to, I'll also send the link in the live chat. You can copy paste that link into a browser, and then you can also take that test, because that test is all about uh, as a member of a group, how are you performing certain roles. So that's the exercise. So in the meantime, let's move slowly into formation variables. So let's see this. In formation variables, you had seen the first box which contained what are they called, size, similarity, compatibility. Now you have to go back to your notes, because I'm not showing that slide any longer. So size, similarity, compatibility, personal characteristics, personal goals, those were there in that first column. Whereas in the second column, you had seen nature of task, organizational setting, organizational environment, and relationship with other groups. So those are the two columns you had seen. So now we will name them. The first column is called membership variables, and the second column is called situational variables. All put together is called formation variables. So today what we will do, we'll only see the formation variables, or how groups are formed or why do they form. I'll give you all the theoretical explanations, and therefore uh, we can discontinue the topic, and tomorrow we will get into developmental aspects of the group, because that's very important for you. You are supposed to develop groups, and any organization where you have groups which are of high maturity, those organizations are very successful organizations anywhere in the world. So how to make these groups highly matured? It's not one day affair. It will take a lot of time, but unless you do it consciously, it's not possible. You cannot just leave things to themselves, particularly the groups, because they're all made up of human beings. Therefore, let's slowly get into what is called formation variables. So now make some notes also as I'm discussing, because this thing which you will never find in any other books, probably only on the internet you may have to search for Boot and Cowling's writings. If anybody has critically analyzed their writings, you might find some information about them. So note down what is called formation variables. I'm giving some notes now. Formation variables: the way the group is composed and the context within which it is operating. Formation variables are the way the group is composed and the context within which the group is operating. That's called formation variables. You can even take the definition of the other two. What are developing variables? So you can make down some notes. Developing variables. I think we have seen it here. Yeah, development variables. Development variables refer to factors emerging from the interaction of a given membership in a given situation. That's a very dynamic factor. Development variables are called very dynamic. Groups have lot of difficulties. People will be having literal fights, shouting with each other. So how they get harmonized, how they get to common understanding, how members settle down with each other's roles, how leadership emerges. It's a very big topic, in fact, and every member will perform certain roles. That's what is going to be our exercise. I will, with that note, I would discontinue the today's class. So let's note down some more. What are called effectiveness variables? Of course, you have already written down what is called development variables. Development variables, once again, are the factors emerging from the interaction of a given membership in a given situation. So we had seen membership and situation, how these two, when these two interact, how our groups develop. Without the interaction between membership and situations, groups never develop. So therefore we are going to focus more on these two issues. in the development, how these two interact, and when they interact it results in the development of the group. And with that we go back to the effectiveness variables. So note down quickly some points on that. Effectiveness is the extent to which group does adequately fulfill the kind of organizational and individual functions. So once again, effectiveness refers to the extent to which the group does adequately fulfill the kind of organizational and individual functions. So to what extent the group fulfill individuals needs and organizational needs? More simple. To what extent group helped individuals in fulfilling their needs and also organizations in fulfilling organizational needs. That's what we call effectiveness, because when you're addressing this category of variables called effectiveness, most important question everybody should raise is effectiveness for whom. Even as we are discussing about that variable, we have to raise this question: effectiveness for whom? Finance people will say effectiveness for the organization. HR people will say effectiveness for the employees. Marketing people will say effectiveness in the eyes of the customer. Operations people will say effectiveness in the eyes of the suppliers. But I place lot of importance. I am not biased on one functional area. All revolves around employees. First point, effectiveness in the eyes of employees. Then effectiveness in the eyes of organization, in the sense for the sake of profits. We should not compromise on that. Profits are very important, because as I told you, without profits you cannot survive. Without surviving, if you don't want to survive, you don't have to make profits. But if you want to survive, you should make profits. Or if you make profits, then only you will survive. Both combinations of statements are holding true today. So therefore, a group's effectiveness is decided by the satisfaction of the members. If employees are satisfied, customers are also satisfied. You think you can promote patient satisfaction at the cost of employee dissatisfaction? Impossible. Nowhere in the world it happens. A dissatisfied employee will also cause dissatisfaction to the customers or patients. That's why that gentleman by name Vinith Nair. Have you ever heard of this man's name? Vinith Nair. Management students must know all business people around the country. In India, who are the business people? Who are the CEOs? Who are the vice presidents? You must know the names. Who is the CEO of Escorts? Who is the medical director of director medical services of Gangaram? Who is the medical director of Woodlands? Tata Memorial Trust. You must know all those names anyway. So Vinith Nair, he was the founder CEO of Hindustan Computers Limited, HCL, and his daughter is now had established a company called VU Technologies. Have you heard of this? VU Televisions. It's called View Televisions, VU TVs, at a young age. So influenced by father, she is the CEO of a company today. Her own company it is now. So father is running Hindustan Computers Limited and daughter is taking care of VU Technologies. VU brand is competing with Redmi, it is competing with TCL, it is competing with Sony, any other multinational brands. That's how people design their careers. So Vinith Nair he wrote a book called Employees First, Customers Next. You have to read that book. Employees First, Customers Next. Because if you are not taking care of your employees, you forget about customers. Most of the companies pamper the customers at the cost of employee dissatisfaction. That's why those companies fade away today. You don't find them in the market. I don't want to give the huge list, but unless you make your employees first, I don't think your customers can be satisfied. So that's why effectiveness for whom? 2 points. Again, I am concluding that point. Effectiveness in the eyes of members of the company, Of course, effectiveness for the sake of company. For example, more conclusive now, I'm concluding that statement. What if your company made huge profits but you didn't share bonus with your employees? You think that is an effective organization? Yeah, for a finance guy, that's an effective organization because they made a lot of money on return on investments. Profitable company. But you didn't share bonus, you didn't share profits with your employees. So employees are dissatisfied. That is not an effective company. So that's why finance and HR are always at loggerheads when it comes to defining what is called effectiveness. Unfortunately, even today, effectiveness is more finance related only. And that's one of the reasons why many companies have been closed down today. More than 100 years old companies, you won't find them today. That's why How the Mighty Fall. You read the book. In that, they talked about why these companies disappeared from the market after 100 years of existence. Grandfathers started, grandfather starts, son continues, grandson, that's it. With grandson, those companies fade away. Only 2 generations they survive. Because effectiveness for whom is an important question while you are working with the groups. So what I will do now very quickly, we will slowly get into some of the formation variables because of our time. So I don't want to take much time. And then you decide, I am leaving it to you. Freedom is yours, learning is yours. Would you like to have class tomorrow? Do you want to have, because seniors do not like to have class. That doesn't influence you, but you can decide. If you want to have one class tomorrow, because we have already lost one class yesterday, so there's no trade-off. Actually, I'm not bargaining, but it's up to you. I leave it to you. You want to have another class tomorrow, we can even have it early, 11:30, so that we need not have a class post lunch. But I leave it to you. I'm open to both ideas, either in the morning or in the afternoon. I have no problem. So I want to utilize this lockdown opportunity because later on we really don't know how workplaces are going to be. Very, very dynamic, I know. So formation variables, only few of these things we will see today and conclude. So note down these points first and then I'll elaborate. I'll explain them with examples. So let's continue. So we'll start with what is size, what is similarity, and then continue with personal characteristics and personal goals. Now I have a question to all of you. When it comes to the size of the membership, when we are defining the group, this question is very, very crucial question. So find out, because I remember my college days, this question was raised. So I'm recollecting. What was that question? For so many years, this question has not changed. Tell me whether small groups or large groups are productive. Think about it. Whether small groups of small number of less than 10, let us say, or large group of more than 10. Which groups are very productive or effective? Okay, that is the best way. Whether small groups are effective or large groups are effective. Explore that possibility. I'm sure all of you will be divided into two. Some will say small groups are productive. Some others will say large groups are productive. But actually, even today, we don't have any research evidence as to which group is very effective. Of course, we have some theoretical explanations. For example, small groups are better because they are very cohesive, very closely knit. They can have very good agreement, understanding with each other, so they will decide how best to produce. But large groups are greater because they have more resources, they have more skills, because more number of people, more talent, more skills, more knowledge, more ideas, and therefore they'll produce more. But on the other hand, large groups will have a lot of difficulties because more people working together is more difficult it becomes to organize them. Not only that, third point, size also has an effect on participation. A small group in which members participate actively, but large groups, I don't think members participate actively. This we have demonstrated ample times in classrooms. When there is a small attendance on a day, the entire class participates. But when it is 20 full, that day I don't see lot of participation happening in the class. That's a disadvantage. So, but all these are only theoretical assumptions, but we don't have any research evidence to explain that. For example, in a large group, I have seen some members feel greater sense of threat and also inhibition to participate in such groups. Whereas in small groups, everybody would like to participate. I know most of us would like to prefer to work in small groups. Anybody, even I have this idea, but I'm compelled to work with large groups, many places. Who knows? Probably tomorrow you're expected to work with a group of 30 employees. That's a large group actually. 8 is an ideal size. Some textbooks talk about. Some research says 12 is an ideal size. But sometimes you're supposed to work with 30 employees, 50 employees. You are scared of leading them, but you're supposed to lead them. That's the purpose of your job. So we don't have any conclusive evidence of small size or large size. The small and large are defined by the job requirements, workplace requirements. So with that note, we'll go to the similarities now. What is the similarity or compatibility? Members who are very similar with each other, they always want to be part of that group. My people, our people, us people. This is how our phrases are. Arey, he is our fellow, our fellow. That's the way we talk in India. He is our fellow. He comes from our community. He comes from our village. He belongs to our religion. This is the way we talk in India. He's a Telugu guy. He's a Tamil guy. He's our guy. That's the way we use it. So that's what we call similarity. So when all such people are part of a group, people who are very similar, do you think people who are very similar are compatible? People having similar characteristics will be very compatible, therefore they will work well. Homogeneity, that's what we say. Same. Homogeneity means same. Homogeneity of values, homogeneity of interests, homogeneity of attitudes. Do you think when there is homogeneity of values, interests, attitudes lead to the formation of a more stable and enduring groups, and therefore members, remember that, think about that, people with same qualities, same backgrounds, do you think such groups will be very enduring and they can produce more? But we know on the other hand, when groups are not compatible, that means when they don't have similar characteristics, we call them diverse groups anyway. So when people are diverse, which means diverse backgrounds, they have more tasks. Diverse people coming from different backgrounds, variety of backgrounds, will have more tasks, more skills, more abilities, more knowledge, more ideas, more problem solving. So should I join a group which is similar in all characteristics, or should I join a group which is dissimilar? In fact, I would like to work with dissimilar groups because all through my life I worked with very different groups. Some team members were Tamilians, some were Malayalis, some were Gujaratis. In fact, I worked with Gujaratis. Some Maharashtrians were there. Currently in my workplace, my assistant manager, HR, I work with her. We both decide the policies. I design the policies, she will draft them and get it corrected in my workplace. So very recently we have developed the HR manual and policies, two documents we have generated for the entire college. So I've seen people from diverse backgrounds are more talented. If you are same people, same story, same gossip. So now you tell me tomorrow you want to have similar groups or dissimilar groups. That's what formation, how groups are formed. People form groups like this with similar characteristics because I feel very comfortable with the Telugu speaking guys. But all through my life, even college days, right from my graduation, I never worked with Telugu people. Always with non-Telugu people only. Maybe because of that, I have very diverse views. My attitudes are very open attitudes, broad attitudes. I don't have that cursing mentality. Maybe because I worked with diverse groups, I've learned from people from different backgrounds and they also felt so comfortable. That's why we have to find out always tomorrow in a hospital. By nature, hospital has diverse groups. By nature, hospital employs people from very heterogeneity of skills and talents. Specialization is an example, no? So therefore, that's an important variable you have to deal with. In fact, groups which are dissimilar or heterogeneous, they generate more membership satisfaction in one research I found. But incompatibility will be very high because North Indians, South Indians in Hyderabad companies, I have seen this problem. North Indians and South Indians, they can't get along. They waste lot of time in that interpersonal problems. So lot of complaints are escalated to the top management. So North and South, they don't get along. Telugu fellows, Tamil fellows don't get along. Malayalis and Tamilians, they can't get along. Gujaratis and Maharashtris, they don't get along. So in our country, we have all these incompatibilities because of dissimilarities. So what I mean is, while you are forming the groups, you have to be careful about these characteristics. That's what my conclusive point is. So we have about 5 more minutes. In 5 minutes, we are concluding the topic. So let's see what are personal characteristics. Very quickly, you can note down the points. What do you mean by personal characteristics? These refer to other factors like individual skills and abilities. Skills and abilities, very importantly. So individuals' skills and abilities in deciding who should be a member of a group. Sometimes it was seen in the workplace. I want that guy. Boss says, I want that guy to be part of this group because that guy can do this, that guy can do that. I want that lady because she is very good in certain skills. I want that guy because that guy has special abilities. He can do wonders in this group. So that's how bosses select members to be part of the group. Even during dance competitions, I have seen how students pick up their fellow dance mates. It's a, let us say, group dance. So they pick up some fellows to be part of their group because these guys have special talents. They can dance well. So it will be easy for them to compete. I'm sure everybody experiences that in the college days. Of course, I was not a good dancer. I was a singer actually. So I used to participate in singing competitions and win prizes. Now I've stopped singing on the stage, confined it only to bathroom. So anyway, personal characteristics could be like other factors as I told you, like individual skills and abilities in deciding who should be a member of a group. That could also influence the development and effectiveness of the group. So now with that we go to the last one before we conclude the class. Personal goals. So this is a very little controversial actually. When groups are formed, some members want to be part of certain groups because their personal goals can be fulfilled there. So for some members, the main attraction of a group membership is its perceived benefit for achieving certain goals other than group goals. Remember that. We have to note down that point. For some members, fulfilling or pursuing their personal goals other than the group goals is the attraction. So if I'm those members can help me fulfill my personal goals. So such fellows come to the groups with hidden agenda or hidden goals in their minds, and they want to fulfill those goals. Unfortunately, these may hinder the progress of the group. As a manager, you have to identify why some fellow wants to all part of that group. He says, "Excuse me, sir, I want to join that group." Then you would easily know why he wants to join that group, because he has a personal agenda. And then before you rub off and discourage or reject his idea, you have to find out why do you want to be part of that group. Find indirect clue. The other group is very volatile, the other group is very, if you're part of that group you can learn a lot of things, you would also get the reward. So if you talk like this, that fellow opens up his mind, and then he'll speak about intentions as to why he wants to join that group. So as a manager you have to explore these reasons why some fellows want to be part of some other. I've seen even in the NIMS hospital some fellow was asked to get transferred, but he was reluctant to that department. Some fellow was offered a HOD position. He was reluctant to go to that because there's a lot of threat from the subordinates. So what is his personal goal? He wants a tension-free job. So these are what we call personal goals. People come to our workplaces. So we have to carefully understand and make them part of certain groups, because for you, group is more important than person. Remember that always as a management student. Groups are more important than persons, uncompromised. So now what I will do, I will pause here, and then I want you to do some one page link, so that I will show you now, so that you can do some homework and then get ready for tomorrow. So let me show you what is that. So where are we? I'll pause this and then show you a window, another window where you can see. Uh, yeah, fine. Just this is the site I was trying to show you on the screen. So in this site, what you would do, this is the site where you can take a test. So if you can finish that test, as you go down, you can see that here is the test. I will paste this link in the live chat. Copy that link. I'm going to paste, and then subsequently you can take this test and then come back tomorrow. So I'm pasting it here. So have it there. Then so advice is you better take this test, and then this test is if you take this test you would know how safe you would be part of a group, what are your uh, perception about yourself, and what are the roles in which you will be very comfortable. So take this test which is called teams role theory. There are many more actually, but I was trying for one test called Bell Bin, but nowhere it is freely available. You can try that. I'm typing in the live stream. That's called Bell Bin, Belbin, Bell Bin test. It's called Team Roles Test. If you can find this test, it will be much better. But you can explore. If you can find this test, it will be very good, because if you take this test, you will know which type of roles you can comfortably perform tomorrow on the job. I have tried my best to search for a free test because they're charging some pounds. It's an Australian uh, website that is conducting this test. I couldn't get a free nowhere, but the nearest one is only this team roles, which I have to paste it to you. That's the nearest one, so you can explore that. If you can really find Belbin, I think nothing like that. If you can find Belbin test, there's nothing like that. So I've tried my best to see the free versions. Nowhere I could find the free versions. So I couldn't find. This is actually the site, but that is a commercial site. They are charging money. This is what we have already seen just before, and I've tried all my best everywhere. Nowhere I could find, because he talks about 9 roles actually. 9 roles are found in that test. So you can see that 9 roles. So if you would know what are those 9 roles tomorrow, anyway, I'm going to explain that. But if you can find somewhere on the internet, somewhere somebody would have kept this file. But I have seen this. If you type it in Google, you can find, let us say, Belbin uh, test instrument PDF. You might find this test somewhere. You can see somebody kept it here. Try whether you can download that, but I don't think, because it's very doubtful site this is. Similarly, you can slowly go down. Somebody would have kept, but this is only a research article. I couldn't find anywhere actually. So what you could do, I think years ago I've tried something like this. SCHO scholar.google.com. This is the one place we might find Bell Belbin's team roles questionnaire. If you can type, you might find. So slowly, if you go down, somewhere you can find. Somebody would have kept a PDF file of this questionnaire. See here, you can. It could be. No, I'm not sure. Not this one. So if you slowly search, you might find Belbin's original questionnaire. Now they are charging a lot of money, but you can find out somewhere here. You can have one of those links. Download it if it is possible. You can try that. Otherwise, the same test which I had suggested you just before. So you can try this test, team roles test. So that's it for today.